Good morning, students. Let's continue with All Summer in a Day. I have already explained you that this story is a little different story. It actually takes place on this planet Venus, where these children, they are there in an underground school. Now these children, they have been waiting for all their lives to see the sun. Now finally we get to know that the sun is about to appear on the same day, and there's one more child, Margot. Now she had lived for around 4 years on Earth, and now when she is 9 years old, she is on Venus, and she's actually tired of rain. She is there, but she's not happy. She's not happy with the water, with the continuous rain, and she is, she's somewhat willing to come back or to go back to Earth. Now let's see, it's a beautiful story. Apart from that, it also talks about the darker side of the human behavior, right? How we act or how we react, and in different situations. Actually, we can see how these children, they hate Margot only for one reason, that is, she is different. According to them, she is different. She never plays with them, and she has felt the warmth of the sun. She has actually seen the sun. There are different reasons, and apart from that, they also hate her because of her better future, right? So we can see that, and that's the only reason why they hate her. Now, the problem with Margot is that she had been on Earth for a long period of time. Maybe she's here, but she's not feeling okay with these children. She feels as if, she has lost all her hopes. She's actually tired of the rain and the continuous water. So she is, if they have given a beautiful description here in the chapter, that she looks like an old photograph. Okay, now we'll do one thing. We'll start from from page number 111, right? Okay, let's continue. It says here, now be very careful. Get away, the boy gave her another push. What are you waiting for? Now, of course, we know that these children, they used to behave in a very different manner, with Margot. They never really liked her. And because of that only, one of her classmates is talking to him like that. Then let's see what happens. Then for the first time, she turned and looked at him, and what she was waiting for was in her eyes. Now, what she was actually waiting for was the sun, and that brightness could be seen in her eyes. Well, don't wait around here, cried the boy savagely. You won't see anything. So the boy was actually, being very rude towards her, and he said, you don't have to wait here. Right? You are not going to see anything today. You'll not get to see the sun. Actually, he never wanted her to see the sun. Then after that, it says here, her lips moved. Now she was about to say something. Nothing, he cried. It was all a joke, wasn't it? He turned to the other children. Now he was really, a different kind of a boy. You must have seen bullies, right, in your classes as well. So he's somewhat a bully, and he turned towards Margot, he pushed her, and he said, no, you're not going to see anything today, right? So let's see what happens after that. Then he even tells her that it was only a joke. Okay, now see, after that, he says like it was nothing, it was just a joke, wasn't it? He turned to the other children. Nothing's happening today, is it? So that's what he told the other children. He must have, he really wanted to bully Margot. He was being very rude towards her, and that was really bad. After that, they all blinked at him, and then, understanding, laughed and shook their heads. Nothing. So they were all together. They were together in this, right? Bullying Margot. Oh, but Margot whispered, her eyes helpless. But this is the day the scientists predict. They say they know the sun. So she says here, how is it possible? Because according to the scientists, they have predicted today is the day when the sun will come. All a joke, said the boy and seized her roughly. Hey everyone, let's put her in a closet before the teacher comes. Now imagine what kind of a boy he was. He seized her, he pushed her, and he told everyone else in the class, let's put her in the closet. Now imagine, I'm sure you know about or you must have seen children like these, right? They do bully each other. They're the ones because of which the ones who are very quiet, they, they are most of the time they're speechless and they feel helpless, which is again bad. Now, I'm not talking about just one or two. It is the darker side or the dark behavior of the human, right? And this side of us can be seen even in these children, right? Not only children, you must have seen the elders bullying each other, and the same thing is happening here. Maybe these are kids, 9 years old children, and still they have this quality in them of being a bully, and that is what they are doing. No, said Margot, falling back. Right? She must be trying to save herself. They searched about her, caught her up, and bore her, protesting and then pleading and then crying, back into a tunnel, a room, a closet, where they slammed and locked the door. So you can imagine how, I must say, how mischievous or how cruel kind of these children were actually. These children were somewhat cruel towards Margot. And this poor little girl, she kept protesting, pleading, and then she was crying. That you can understand her condition, right? And they somehow pushed her, they took her through the tunnel into a room and a closet where they slammed and locked the door of the closet. So this poor girl, she was locked in a closet. They stood looking at the door and saw it tremble from her beating and throwing herself against it. Now she was only 9 years old and she was locked in that closet. She was scared and she kept, beating her hands against the door. She even tried to push herself against the door, but nothing was working. These children, they were standing there and they were looking at the door. These children, they were actually heartless. They heard her muffled cries. Then, smiling, they turned and went out and back down the tunnel, just as the teacher arrived. Now, they were trying, or maybe, why these children, they acted in such a manner, was they thought that Margot was different. They had no idea that they were all same. Yes, of course, I can say Margot was different. Why? Because she was still kind. She was still, a child. But these children, maybe they were children or maybe they were 9 years old, but somehow they were trying to bully Margot. They were trying to show their strength. They were acting in a very weird manner. So maybe they were children, maybe they were 9 years old, but somehow they were reckless, right? And they had no regret. No regret. They smiled and they just walked away from there. Ready, children, she glanced at her watch. Now, teacher arrives, and of course, teacher is not aware that one child is missing. So she says, are you all ready? Yes, said everyone. Are we all here? Yes. Now she questioned, are we all here? They said yes, and she trusted them. The rain slacked still more. They crowded to the huge door. The rain stopped. It was. Now, you'll have to understand this para. It is again important. This para talks about the change in the environment, the change in the scene. You must have seen the movie, right? For example, if a kind of a film is played on a projector and the whole scene that is shown is of a rainy season, and suddenly how they change the reel and everything changes into a sunny and a bright and a beautiful day. So this para talks about that time, how this rain will stop, how everything will change. Please understand the details, and it is important. It was as if, in the midst of a film concerning an avalanche, a tornado, a hurricane, a volcanic eruption, something had first gone wrong with the sound apparatus, thus muffling and finally cutting all of noises. So suddenly what happened, as if this rain, the film of this rain is there, and suddenly the noise of the storm, the rain, everything stopped, as if there was something wrong in the voice box, right? Or the sound apparatus. Then it says here, all of the blast and repercussions and thunders, and then, second, ripped the film from the projector and inserted in its place a beautiful tropical slide which did not move or tremble. Imagine it's raining, it's loud, thunder, storm, and the sound of the rain unbearable, and suddenly everything goes quiet. Everything is cool and calm. Rain stops. There's no more sound of the rain, thunder, storm, nothing. It seems as if someone has changed the film, and now what you can see, everything that is bright, beautiful, sunny. The world ground to a standstill. The silence was so immense and unbelievable that you felt your ears had been stuffed or you had lost your hearing altogether. Now suddenly the earth, that planet became silent, right? Suddenly their world, Venus, was quiet and calm. It felt as if someone has actually stuffed something in your ears. Now it was all stuffed, because of which you cannot hear anything. After that, it says here, the children put their hands to their ears. They stood apart. The doors slid back, and the smell of the silent, waiting world came into them. Finally, these children, they were standing there. The door opened. They were actually, holding their ears, so because of the sudden silence. And the moment door opened, they could feel the world coming towards them. The sun came out. It was the color of flaming bronze, and it was very large, and the sky around it was blazing blue tile color. And the jungle burned with sunlight as the children, released from their spell, rushed out, yelling into the springtime. Now finally, what happened? The door opened, there was sun, everything was bright and beautiful. This forest, everything was lit up because of the sunlight, and these children, they rushed out of that tunnel, of that underground school, right? It seemed as if they have, just came back to their senses. They were under some kind of a spell, and now they were all in their senses. They were rushing out, yelling into the springtime. Now, don't go too far, called the teacher after them. You have only 2 hours, you wouldn't want to get caught out. So somewhat it was for 2 hours. So she says here, you just have 2 hours. Make sure that you do not go too far, just stay near the place. But they were running and turning, their faces up to the sky, feeling the sun on their cheeks like a warm iron. They were taking off their jackets and letting the sun burn their arms. They were actually experiencing the sunlight after a long period of time, right? After 7 years of rain. So it was, very exciting for them. They took off all their jackets and they were letting the sun burn their bodies. They were so excited. They wanted to feel the warmth of the sun. Oh, it's better than the sun lamps, isn't it? So they were excited. They were talking to each other. They were like, oh, this warmth, this sun is much better than the sun lamps that we have. Much, much better. They stopped running and stood in a great jungle that covered Venus. They grew and never stopped growing. Tumultuously, even as you watched it. It was nest of octopi clustering up, great arms of flesh like weed. wavering, flowering in this brief spring. So when they stopped, they looked towards the jungle or the forest. There were weed, there were plants, there were branches, everything was growing, right? Everything was there. Because of the rain, they were in their extreme stage, right? It was the color of rubber and ash. This jungle from the many years without sun. Of course, because there was no sun, so I'm sure there was no photosynthesis and all. So the color of these plants was grey, and the color of the ash. Ash is again grey. Rubber and grey somewhat, right? Because there was no green color. There was no photosynthesis. So these plants, they were somewhat greyish in color. Quite scary. It was the color of stones and the white cheese and ink. It was the color of the moon. So it was all, the plants, they were different in color. They were not at all green. They were grey. They were somewhat like the stones, somewhat like the color of the moon, somewhat like the color of the ink, blue-black colors. The children lay out, laughing on the jungle mattress. Jungle mattress, we are talking about the grass, and heard it sigh and squeak under their resilient and alive. They ran among the trees, they slipped and fell, they pushed each other. Now this is how these children, they were behaving when they were there in the sun. They were very excited, they were very happy. Okay, remember that. Okay, they ran among the trees, they slipped and fell, they pushed each other, they played hide and seek and tag. But most of all, they squinted at the sun until the tears ran down their faces. Squinted means they were looking directly at the sun until the time their ears actually started rolling out of their eyes. And they put their hands up to that yellowness and that amazing blueness, and they breathed of the fresh air, and listened to the silence, which suspended them in a blessed sea of no sound and no motion. So now they were actually enjoying the sun. Now there was no more the sound of the rain, thunder, storm, nothing. It was a beautiful day. There was sun. Everything was perfect for them. There was silence as well. They looked at everything and savored everything. They were actually, enjoying everything. They were taking the warmth and the color, the beauty of the sun into their soul. Then wildly, like animals escaped from their caves, they ran and ran in shouting circles. So they were acting like wild animals. They were enjoying the beauty of the nature. They ran for an hour and did not stop running. So they kept running. They were running in the sun. They were enjoying the beautiful sun. And they kept running. They did not stop. Okay? And then in the midst of their running, midst means middle of their running, one of the children wailed. Now one of them wailed. Wailed means gave a cry, right? Shouted. Everyone stopped. The girl standing in the open held out her arm. "Oh, look, she said, trembling. Now this poor child, she stopped running around and she gave a loud cry and she said, look. She held her palm, hand open like this, and there was a raindrop. They came slowly to look at her open palm. In the center of it, cupped and huge, with a single raindrop, she began to cry, looking at it. They glanced quietly at the sun. Oh, that means the sun was no more there. A few cold drops fell on their nose and their cheek and their mouth. The sun faded behind a stir of mist. A wind blew cold around them. Now suddenly, this is again another nice part that you should know, how the weather changed back to the rainy season. So there was no more sun. Sun was hid behind the mist. Wind blew cold around them. They turned and started walking back towards the underground house, their hands at their sides, their smiles vanishing away. Okay, why I was saying underground, you can see it says here as well, Their houses, their school, everything was underground. A boom of thunder startled them, and like leaves before a new hurricane, they tumbled upon each other and ran. So there was a thunder, and the sound of the thunder actually, shock, gave them a kind of a shock. And they started running towards the door, towards the main door of their houses or the main school. So what happened? They were moving, they were running as if like the leaves. Okay? Lightning struck 10 miles away, 5 miles away, a mile and a half mile. The sky darkened into midnight in a flash. Now suddenly the whole beautiful scene changed into dark midnight. It was raining, it was thunder, it was storm. So that is how the Venus had always been, 7 years at least. They stood in the doorway of the underground for a moment until it was raining hard. Then they closed the door and heard the gigantic sound of the rain falling in tons and avalanches everywhere and forever. Will it be 7 more years? Yes, 7. Then one of them gave a little cry. Margot. What? She's still in the closet where we locked her. Margot. Now was the time when they were ashamed of their actions. Now is the time when they're feeling regret, and they were feeling bad for Margot. They stood as if someone had driven them, like so many, I think so the word is missing from my book, into the floor. They looked at each other and then looked away. They glanced out at the world that was raining and raining and raining steadily. They could not meet each other's glances. Their faces were solemn and pale. Now they were feeling ashamed of their actions. They cannot even, it was difficult for them to look at each other directly. They looked at their hands and feet and their faces down. Margot, one of the girls, said, "Well, no one moved." "Go on," whispered the girl. They walked slowly down the hall in the sound of cold rain. They turned through the doorway to the room in the sound of the storm and thunder. Lightning on their faces, blue and terrible. They walked over to the closet door slowly and stood by it. Behind the closet door was only silence. They unlocked the door even more slowly and let Margot out. So they were all scared and they were ashamed of their actions. See, go through this story. It's a nice story, right? And I'm sure you have your workbooks as well. If possible, please read the explanations from the workbook as well, right? Go through the meanings if you really need some. And apart from that, go through the critical appreciation and the title part. That is important. So that is it for today. Thank you.